Hello artists! We are going to draw some flowers today. This is a kind of complicated object. A flower has petals and leaves and a stem, but we're going to just take it one step at a time and do it with the most basic of geometric shapes first.
So if you notice, I'm starting out with a rounded triangle. So when you start drawing, it doesn't matter if it's a flower, if it's a human being, or an object. You usually don't want to start with the smallest details. You want to start with the big overall geometric shape. This is your base, and then you draw on top of it. So I added little lines that go out, and that's basically me measuring out where my petals are going. And then each time I'm adding a petal, I'm making sure to make it a little varied. On the edge, instead of having a flat petal, I'm trying to show a petal that's turning into space. So on the top, it's kind of like a U shape, and that shows that that petal is going to the side and wrapping around towards the back of the flower. Flowers, nature, all of that has incredible variation in itself, so try not to draw everything totally uniform. So now instead of that little basic triangle on the bottom, I'm adding a little extra lines to make it look like the stem of the flower. And I'm just adding on a few last petals. The last thing I'm going to do is take a micron pen. That's my favorite art pen of choice. So if you're really into drawing, you might want to grab some of these micron pens. They're better than Sharpies, as in they don't bleed as much. But if you don't have a micron pen, you can do the same thing with a black ink pen, but before you erase, just make sure your flower is really dry. So instead of just having my flower be in pencil, I wanted it to be black lines because I feel like that makes it pop out a lot more. So the last thing I did was just add a little bit of texture in the petals, and that's it. So now I'm going to show you another style of flower. So I'm starting out with kind of like a cylinder shape that is a little larger in the center, and that's going to be a tulip. So I'm starting by dividing my flower into the petals along that cylinder that I made. And the thing with this is you want to make sure that the petals are kind of overlapping each other. The front petal goes in front of the sides, and then you have a distant petal in the back. And again, the side petals have, instead of a flat line, they have a kind of C curve or U shape that points inwards towards the flower. Okay, so that flower, the petals are pretty easy. I'm just going to add a little bit extra by adding a leaf to the stem. Okay, so I added another curve, like the stem is turning into place. I think that just adds a lot of depth. And now I'm just going to add in my black lines and finish the details of this flower. Now again, make sure your pen or marker is very dry before you erase it, or else you're going to smudge your lines. Okay, and just a few little lines to show highlights and shadows and textures, and you're done. So you're going to start with an oval and draw two lines that kind of go inwards. It's going to be the inside of the flower, and then we need to do one more of that shape to create a base for us to draw our petals on. So this one's going to be more like a sunflower. And I just wanted to pull that first base up a little bit higher. Again, your shapes might not be 100% perfect. You can adjust them a little bit. The best thing when you're drawing this step is to draw really, really lightly, because then you're going to be able to erase all of this measurement stuff that you've done. So kind of like the first flower, from the base, I've started by drawing small lines that go out, and those just help me measure where my petals are gonna go. So this flower is gonna have a lot of petals, but I'm gonna start with the ones that form each area first, and then I'm gonna go in and kind of fill in the gaps. So notice these flowers petals are crossing over the center. The ones on the side are going outwards and they get a little bit thinner. And then the ones in the back are a little bit more open. We can see pretty much the entire petal. So now I'm just kind of filling in, adding extra petals into the gaps. Now to finish off this flower, we're also going to have a few petals that face downwards. So I'm going to draw those lines out first. Those lines are really important. Really helps me be able to add the petals a lot easier when I add guidelines like that. So I'm just showing you on the top how I'm making that space. So my petals are going across and then down. So my line looks like it's going downwards. And then after I add the stem, I'm going to add one leaf that comes off of this flower, and then just go in with my ink pen details, and I'm finished. Now you could take these flowers and watercolor them. You could color them in with colored pencils. You could add designs around them, like maybe a circle of a color, or you can just keep them as is. One thing that these would be great as is bookmarks, because they're long and skinny. So if you draw them a little bit separated, you could cut them out individually and turn them into bookmarks, which I always love having a nice bookmark, especially one that I make.